following up on Ranking Member Cummings, I sent you a letter, Director, specifically asking for details about the situation on 2011. I'd ask unanimous consent to enter it into the record so all members can see it. The unclassified spot report on the incidents in November of 2011. Hearing no objections, so ordered. Director, why is it that when I look at this report, there isn't even a mention of Officer Carrie Johnson, and yet the Washington Post reports details about her calling into the Secret Service headquarters? Why isn't her name even mentioned in the spot report?
The spot report reflects the active investigation. I don't know what information that you have relative to Officer Johnson's reporting. Well,
you gave us this report. I asked you for all the details and information. This is minute by minute, 2052 hours, 2053. It's minute by minute what happened in this situation. Are you telling me that the Washington Post is wrong, that she didn't call into the headquarters? Did she not do that?
I'm confused by your statement about call into headquarters.
Well, according to the Washington Post, she called in and reported that she had heard shots fired. She reported that she was opening a box, getting out a shotgun, all those details.
That's the confusion that I have with the Washington Post article. Typically, when there is an emergency happening around the White House or alerts are made, much like the shots being fired on November 11th, I would expect officers to react according to their security protocols.
And she says in the Washington Post, it says that she called into the headquarters. There's no mention of that. Other officers are mentioned in there, but she's not off. We will follow up on that. It's unacceptable to not even mention the actions that she took, and that the Washington Post could get that, but the Congress couldn't, and you couldn't provide it. Let's go back to the fence jumping situation. State police, the fence jumper. State police had detained a person, had a map in the car, all the weapons that Congressman Cummings had talked about, suspicious behavior. My understanding is that actually 3 officers had actually spotted him that day and not reported it. Not reported it. And I want to know if that's true as we go along. The fence failed. Officers chased him, didn't catch him. Sniper was in position. No shots were fired. Dogs were out there, weren't released. Counter surveillance, I'm understanding, is understaffed. There was no shoot. Nobody shot anything. There was nobody that was intercepted. The doors were unlocked. An officer was overwhelmed. A crash box was evidently silenced. And yet the Secret Service puts out a statement that says that they offered, quote, tremendous restraint and discipline, end quote. My question to you is, do those officers have your authority to use lethal force to prevent somebody from entering the White House?
Those officers do have the authority to use independent judgment to leverage lethal force when appropriate.
Is that true when somebody's trying to get at the President?
That is always true. They are law enforcement officers.
So it's always true when there's somebody's trying to penetrate the White House that they can use lethal force?
As appropriate within the confines of the law.
Is somebody trying to explain the details of that? If somebody is approaching the White House, has penetrated the security and making a run for the White House, no apparent weapon, can they take that person down?
The law requires that law enforcement officers ensure that they are in imminent danger or others are in imminent danger before they can leverage lethal force.
So if the person's running at the White House but no apparent weapon, they can or cannot use lethal force?
Those are going to be independent decisions made by the officer based on the totality of the circumstances.
How does the officer know if they have an improvised explosive device or dirty bomb or if it's a terrorist? How do they know that? Shouldn't they assume that this person has ill intention?
Law enforcement officers are trained in observation skills, and I would assess that they are constantly looking at people for ill intentions.
I think it's confusing. This is part of what they have to deal with. They make a split-second decision. I want it to be crystal clear. You make a run and a dash to the White House, we're going to take you down. I want overwhelming force. Would you disagree with me?
I do want our officers and agents to execute appropriate force for anyone attempting to challenge or breach the White House.
We've got to explore this further. The Secret Service put out a statement, according to or talked to the Associated Press, I should say. They reported on September 20th at 1:24 a.m. Eastern Time. Donovan, the spokesperson, Ed Donovan said the man appeared to be unarmed officers who spotted him climbing the fence, and his search of the subject turned up no weapon. Why would he say that there's no weapon?
I will have to ask Mr. Donovan that question.
You haven't done that since the incident happened?
I know when Mr. Gonzalez was placed into custody, he was found to have a folded knife in his right front pants pocket.
Do you consider that a weapon?
That is a weapon.
Why would the Secret Service put out an official press release saying that, or put out a statement to the Associated Press? Did you correct the Associated Press? Did you call them back and say, you got that wrong?
I have no knowledge of that.
So you just let it linger out there that there was no weapon. And that was wrong. It was inaccurate. Correct?
I do know that there has been a lot of information in this case, and that's why we are doing a robust review. I can't speak for conversations that I was not a part of or the press's interest in this.
Did you read the press release before it went out?
I have read the press release before it went out.
Do you agree that the officers showed tremendous restraint and discipline? You agreed with that comment?
I do think, based on the totality of the circumstances and from Mr. Gonzalez's arrest, that these officers did use restraint in making a very difficult decision as to whether to deploy lethal force or subdue and arrest him.
Do you think they responded appropriately?
I do not think the security plan was properly executed, and that is why I'm conducting a robust investigation to ensure that we have a comprehensive review of what people were, that I have the facts, all of the facts, so I can make an assessment of what the decisions were on that night.
Thank you. I've gone well past my time. We'll now recognize the gentlewoman from the District of Columbia.